Okay, this is part two of going through the FIA's official report into what happened at Abu Dhabi 2021. Now, the first part, I go through the first 3 pages of the 7-page report in this video with this thumbnail. Quite long, an hour and 21 minutes, because they reference the steward's appeal without exposing in any way how corrupt that entire process was and how wrong it was. They just talk about it, and this happened and this happened and this happened, without in any way kind of going into any detail. So what we'll do, we'll go down to where I left off, which was the end of the 3rd page there, and we'll go on to the 4th page and go from there. So let's just make sure we're not missing anything. So the 4th page then, double check, yeah, we're on here then. Okay, so point 21. Following the 2021 Abu Dhabi Grand Prix, there was a significant amount of media attention and public debate directed towards the communications between the race director and the Red Bull Racing team principal on the one hand, and the race director and the Mercedes team principal on the other hand, especially the conversations which took place during the final laps of the race. So what you're identifying, there's a significant amount of media attention and public debate about the communication between Horner and Massey and Wheatley and Massey, and maybe a bit between Toto Wolff and Massey. That's really not the crux of the problem, is it? The crux of the problem is you broke your rules to manufacture an outcome in the race, that you're diverting attention to the problem being the this nature of communication. That's all you've said there. 22 on lap 56 of 58, after the message lapped cars will not be allowed to overtake was published, the conversation, and there's a little 1 above conversation here, between Red Bull's team principal Christian Horner, team manager Jonathan Wheatley, and race control Michael Massey was as follows. And we didn't get the full conversation. They've stated in this report that it's on lap 56, after the lapped cars will not be allowed to take notification was given. That was given when them cars were travelling down that top straight in between turn 5 and turn 6 on that track. So all we're told is that after that notification, this conversation took place. When after that, we don't know. But they do acknowledge that the conversation took place on lap 56. And the conversation is team principal, and this is Horner, Christian to Michael, race director. Yes, go ahead, Christian. Team principal. They've actually mistyped this. The written transcript is not a true reflection of the actual conversation, because we heard that and it actually was why aren't we getting these lapped cars out of the way? Remember that one? That's the conversation that F1 TV, the media broadcasting company that creates the global feed, that's the one that they chose to play to the world on lap 57 of that race, when they've gone through turn 3 and are heading toward, probably gone through turn 4, heading towards turn 5. That's where they play it, because we get, as they turn in the first corner and going into turn 2, Martin Brundle says, because I think the safety car will be coming in at the end of this lap, and there will be one racing lap. And then Crofty says, they'll all get blue flags, and then we get these Christian to Michael, that this one here, that they are acknowledging that conversation took place on lap 56. When you get to lap 57, this conversation is redundant because it's not possible. Why are Formula One playing it to the world when it's not in accordance with the regulations? What are they cooking up? They're cooking it up. How does the media know that they're cooking it up? Oh, why is the media telling you that they're cooking it up, but presenting it in a different way? See, this is how they contrive it. They're all coordinated in how they are convincing you of it. It's just a bit chaotic, and there's somebody under pressure here, and what's going on? Because that doesn't happen in any other sport. You get a team that might be complaining to the referee, and they'll say, well, the referee will send that team manager off if it keeps going on. Simple, isn't it? Right, team principal, why aren't we getting the lapped cars out of the way? Race director, Christian, just give me a second. Okay, my main big one is to get this incident clear. You only need one racing lap. Director, yeah. What do you mean, yeah? It's not yeah. Okay, the answer, Michael, is we're on lap 56 at the moment. There's still marshals on the track at turn 14. The clerk of the course therefore cannot declare the track clear, and therefore we cannot carry out the unlapping procedure. Shut up, Christian. And then we get Jonathan Wheatley, team manager. Obviously, those lapped cars, Michael, you don't need to let them go right away around to catch up with the back of the pack. Oh, so that's in breach of the FIA International Sporting Code about the notion of the regulations will never be applied as such a way to prevent or impede competition, Jonathan. But the race director understood. Yes, I'm getting the message. I know what I need to comply with, the narrative. You need to let them go, right? Is what Wheatley says. Understood. Just give us a second. What do you mean, understood? Why is Wheatley directing the race director? That is somebody acting in breach of the FIA International Sporting Code. What's going on there? You see, there's a process, and the process revolves around safety. You've got a team manager, okay, that is acting in breach or trying to coerce a race director to breach safety protocol. You need to let them go. Understood. Just give us a second. Well, you see, this team manager still works in the sport. He's now the team principal of the Stake Kick Sauber team, isn't he? And will then be the team principal of the team when it becomes Audi next season. This man should be banished from the sport and actually suffer some serious consequence. Well, that might even include a prison sentence for his role in the fraud. That is Jonathan Wheatley. Team manager, and then we've got a motor race on our hands. Understood? Now, you see, we haven't got a motor race on our hand because a motor race is a competition where the set of circumstances that for the contest is the same for all competitors. That's the nature of a Formula One Grand Prix. Okay, you're all competing. You've all got an opportunity to contest, and see who wins. That's not how you've set that up. You've got these regulations which create the conditions that then put you in a position to begin that motor race. And if you don't follow those parameters through, you're not in a position to have a valid motor race. So we've got a team manager trying to coerce the race director of the FIA and successfully coerces the race director of the FIA to break the regulations to set up a fraudulent event that's not sport. Now, you could say that Massey was coerced. You could just say it was all part of a bit of a script. Let's make it appear that Massey is capitulating due to pressure. But if the plan was always that the crash of Latifi was going to cause a safety car, and the plan was always to ensure it ended in a last lap shootout, which it would appear that is very much the case. that is likely to have been the case were it not for the fact that Latifi's brakes caught fire. That made the clear-up operation take longer. That means that they couldn't release the lapped cars on lap 56. Were it not for those brakes catching fire, they probably could have done. It's highly likely they could have done. We don't know for sure because we don't know at which point in time the clerk of the course would have allowed the marshals and the crane onto the track to do the clear-up operation, how long it would have taken to get those lapping cars to a safe speed and safely under control behind that safety car before he then said, okay, get yourself on there, clear it up, get rid of the car, get rid of all the debris. We don't know exactly how long that process would have taken, but what we do know is that it definitely would have taken longer because of the deployment of the fire extinguisher and having to also clear up the powder from the fire extinguisher. But it would appear highly likely that the intention was the Latifi crash caused a safety car that was going to end to produce the last lap shootout anyway, and that was what was being designed. And then when it emerged that it wasn't possible because now the clear-up operation took too long, and now under the rules of the sport, that designed outcome of creating a last lap shootout to determine the outcome of the World Championship, that's no longer possible. So what they then did is cooked this up to still manufacture it, with Red Bull getting on to play their part in the act so that it became, oh, well, he's done it this way because he was under pressure. Because otherwise, if the teams weren't putting him under pressure, what would the excuse be? So, that there always has to be kind of triggers to trigger off a sequence of events. And there always has to be a kind of flow to it, because otherwise, if it doesn't make sense, it doesn't make sense. Clearly, this event doesn't make sense, but at least this adds some sort of reason as to why Masi did what he did. So you've got to create that reason. So you've got to create that conversation. You've got to make the public aware of that conversation, which is what F1 TV did. Like I say, they picked that out. They've acknowledged that it took place on lap 56. They chose to play it to the world on lap 57 because that then fell in with the narrative that they wanted to convince us of. They wanted us to know that Red Bull were saying to Michael, we want one lap. What's Michael going to do now, everybody? Everybody's wondering what Michael's going to do now. Because if they hadn't have played that, there'd just been and the commentators hadn't been going, are we going to see racing? We think it's going to come in and we're going to get... If they hadn't have done that and they'd have just said, no, that we're now on lap 57, with just this and the remaining lap, even if they do release the lapped cars on this lap, the following lap 58, has to be completely beyond the safety car. This is a safety car finish. This means that Lewis Hamilton is on course to become a world champion. Not a single one of them said that. Not a single one of the global commentary teams said that. That's strange, isn't it? Instead, it's all the narrative. All narrative. What I've just told you about what they should have been saying on lap 57 is authentic, in accordance with the rules of the sport. How come all the commentary teams couldn't say that? And then we're talking about, and even what my Toto Wolff says, it is so ambiguous because what he could have said could have clearly exposed what was really going on. So on lap 57 and 58, after the message, lapped car for Norris, 14 Alonso, 31 Ocon, 16 Leclerc, 5 Vettel. To overtake the safety car was published. Mercedes team principal Toto Wolff radioed race control. Team principal, Michael, this isn't right. Michael, that is so not right. That is so not right. Right? Now, just saying that is so not right, what does that articulate to the world? It's ambiguous, isn't it? he feels upset because he feels that it's not right. Okay, but if you were Toto Wolff and you said, Michael, this is not the regulation. The regulation is all 8 cars have to be released. You've not released 3 of them, and you're not allowed to then immediately withdraw the safety car. That safety car has to stay on track for at least a further lap to now enable those released cars to try and catch the back of the pack. If he'd have said that, then the whole world would have realised the situation, because they'd have gone, yes, that's exactly what we need to see happen. But Toto didn't say that, did he? Just, it isn't right. It's so not right. It's so not right. It's not good enough. Again, indicates complicity from Toto Wolff. And then we get reported in point 23 here. Team principal incorrectly stated he, Ver, just overtook in the safety car. No, why are you projecting that was incorrect, an incorrect statement? Because that was a correct statement. Max Verstappen did nudge ahead of Hamilton during that safety car period. That is a correct statement if he's identified that. Why, in your official report, FIA, are you saying that the team principal incorrectly said that? Again, how many things are wrong with their official report, and all of the World Motorsport Council have just gone, yes, this is a great report, we ratify the report. Point 24. First, much of the debate centred around the purpose and appropriateness of those communications, and whether in-race communications between the F1 teams and the race director should be broadcast or even permitted at all. So they're focusing attention as being one of the problems with Abu Dhabi here is the teams communicating with race control. That is a minor issue. An absolute minor issue that they're citing as being one of the predominant issues, because that's how they want to turn your attention. They want to lay the blame on the communication as opposed to the clear breach of regulations and the clear consequence of those breaches, which they're not addressing whatsoever. So you then get what this is then pointing to is the fact that this is their excuse now of trying to make sure that any future conversations that take place between teams and race control don't get broadcast to the public. That all gets done in secret, so we don't get to find out about what is being coerced behind the scenes. 25. The consensus of those involved in the detailed analysis and clarification exercise was that their respective communications to the race director, led by the Red Bull Racing and Mercedes team principals during the final laps of the 2021 Abu Dhabi Grand Prix, had a negative impact on the smooth running of the final laps, because they were distracting when the race director needed to focus on making difficult and time-pressured decisions. Lots of people do jobs where they're trying to do things under pressure, and there are other potential distractions to them, and they have to zone out, they have to blank out those distractions and focus on the task in hand. Now, Michael Masi is sitting in race control, an air-conditioned office, with at least 9 other FIA colleagues around him, all sat at a bank of computer screens. And Michael Masi needs to be in communication with the clerk of the course to liaise with over the clear-up operation and then the carrying out of the mandatory procedure. That's all he needs to focus on during that time. Because once he's deployed that safety car, essentially he oversees what then is being played out, okay? And the clerk of the course is overseeing the clear-up operation and the making safe of that section of the track. So he has to wait for the report back from the clerk of the course to declare that that section of the track is now cleared and now fit to be safe to resume racing. So once Masi receives that message back, that's when he knows he is allowed to begin the unlapping procedure, which is a required procedure. Any other noise that's going on is irrelevant. Now, if Massey wasn't capable of detaching from that noise, if Massey invited that noise, if Massey didn't delegate that noise, well, that's a failing of FIA race control. It's not a failing of the communications, it's a failing of their process. It's a failing that you've got people in there that are susceptible to being influenced by the Red Bull team. And that shows corruption. That shows that Red Bull are pulling the strings of the decision makers in Formula One. That's a corrupt sport. Simple as that. But they'll try and project it differently here. 26. Indeed, when the safety car is deployed, the race director must in particular monitor the cars on track, the order in which they are placed, the deployment of the appropriate flags, the progress of the marshal's intervention, and then, if the clerk of the course considers that the conditions so permit, order the safety car to leave the track. Okay, you've missed out the unlapping procedure there, haven't you? So in point 26, they're telling you the race director's responsibilities, but in that list of responsibilities, they've missed out conveniently the requirement to fulfill the regulations of that safety car having deployed it. And then regulations are that it remains on track at least until the leader is behind it and all other cars are lined up behind the leader. That's when there's no cars that are lapped in that situation. And they're saying that he has to monitor the cars on the track and the order in which they're placed. Well, yeah, and that's all done digitally via Tracker View and Data View, which has been around for years, which the FIA have at their disposal, as do the teams, which clearly says +1 lap. Lando Norris clearly says +1 lap. That running order, when you view the cars, you saw Lewis Hamilton behind the safety car. You didn't see Max Verstappen behind Lewis Hamilton. No, you saw an orange car of Lando Norris in a McLaren. He's not in second position. What does that mean? It means that he has been lapped. What position is Lando Norris in? Well, when Perez retires, he's in 7th. What does that mean? It means that Lewis Hamilton has lapped every competitor in that field up to and including 7th position. How many cars are left in that race? Well, you've got 7th, 8th, all the way down to 14th. So, those 8 cars need to be released because they all qualify. Did any of those cars become lapped late on in that safety car window? No, they didn't, did they? We didn't see that happen. So no, they are all eligible. Their wording is that they gas it all up. Safety car deployed. Race director must, in particular, monitor the cars on the track. Yeah, that's done by the computer. The order in which they're placed. Yeah, that's done by the computer. The deployment of the appropriate flags. Well, the clerk of the course needs to do that. They actually were waving the appropriate flags prior to the deployment of the safety car. The moment Latifi crashes, we get yellow, yellow. Yeah. And that was the only area of the track where it was under yellows, really. The progress of the marshal's intervention. Well, yeah, you can be overseeing that, but it's actually the clerk of the course responsibility. And then, if the clerk of the course considers that the conditions permit, order the safety car to leave the track. Before you order the safety car to leave the track, you must have carried out the mandatory procedure to reset the race resumption condition. You've missed that out. Like I say, this could have been written better by a child. Point 27. The race director must therefore manage both the cars on the track, the intervention of the safety car, and what happens at the scene of the incident. No, he hasn't got to manage what happens at the scene of the incident. That's the clerk of the course's responsibility. You'll also have a senior marshal that should be directing it if the clerk of the course isn't on site. Okay, and should be in radio communication with the clerk of the course. These marshals should be trained to be able to recover vehicles that are stranded on the track and do it appropriately. So, it's not the race director that is necessarily directly involved with all of that, i.e. a considerable number of tests. So they're gassing everybody up to make his role seem ever so complicated when it's not. to be accomplished in a minimum of time to allow the race to resume safely and as soon as possible. Yeah, this happens every time there's a safety car deployment. This happened on every time that Michael Massey deployed the safety car. He had to carry out these procedures and had to do the same thing, and he was capable of them for each of those times. The teams would have been communicating with him through those times. What was different this time? What was different? We know that when he's doing this, and for the four of the occasions that he deployed the safety car and there were lapped cars in situ, he kept the safety car on track for a further lap beyond the mandatory one after release. He knows what the purpose is. He knows he has to restore sporting fairness to all competitors prior to the resumption of racing. Okay, you have to restore that, and that's when you then withdraw the safety car. He knows that. He's demonstrated it with his conduct, while at the same time responding to the demands of the team principals. This requires immense concentration. This requires somebody with skills that you or I do not possess. Everybody, look at them bigging up this man's task, role, and jeopardy. And yeah, no, really, it's far from difficult. Really isn't. It's not under pressure at all. It's a piece of piss, is what it is. But they're trying to project that this is such a highly precious job. You see, it's not the same as being the referee in a World Cup final when you've got a stadium of 90,000 supporters and half of them are howling at you with every decision you make. Because half of them think that their team is hard done by every decision you make. Half of them will be happy because you've made the decision and it's favoured their team. The other half will hate you, and they're letting you know about it. And you're getting aggro from the crowd, and you're getting aggro from the managers, and you know that you are invisible on that screen to a global watching audience of in excess of 100 million people. That's more pressured. Sat in an air-conditioned office, completely out of it, not on show, without the crowd baying for your blood, that's completely different, isn't it, Michael? Completely different. But look at how the FIA want to project it, because it suits their narrative. 28. Hence, it was found that these communications were neither necessary nor helpful to the smooth running of the race. Rather, the consensus was that they add pressure to the race director at a critical time, i.e. at a time when the race director must simultaneously monitor the cars on the track, the deployment of the appropriate flags, I've gone through this, haven't I, and the progress of the marshals in clearing the track, and liaise with the clerk of the course in relation to the end of the safety car period, and might seek to influence, whether directly or indirectly, or intentionally or unintentionally, the decisions made by the race director. So look at how much of an issue they make over the communications and trying to blame the fixing of that race on the fact that these team managers getting onto the race director was the reason for that. Absolute bullshit. Point 29. With the foregoing in mind, the consensus of those involved in the detailed analysis and the clarification exercise was that who were the consensus? Who was involved in the detailed analysis and the clarification exercise? Was that communications between, on one hand, F1 teams and, on the other hand, the race director during a race ought to be restricted so that the race director would be free to perform his/her crucial role without unnecessary disruption and distractions. Oh, you couldn't work that out beforehand. You've got race control, which is an air-conditioned office with at least 10 FIA personnel in it. Okay, we've got we've got Martin Brundle even say, well, when Charlie Whiting and Herbie Blash as his assistant used to do it, and they probably didn't have a full complement of 10 people in there, Herbie would listen to some of these messages and tell them to jog on. Yeah, Charlie's busy, shut up. Just shut the radio off. Do you not think that procedure, that kind of process would have not been carried forward? Oh, we've changed the process now. Instead, what we're going to do, we're going to allow all of these teams direct access at the same time to the race director, so that he's got 10 voices yapping in his ear. He doesn't know whether he's coming or going. Oh, what should we do now? Oh, so you didn't think that that would be a problem. So that's a governing body that's not fit for purpose, because it's not identified something beforehand that it could be an easily identifiable problem to the ability of a person to perform their role. But we know that that's how they used to do it. So why would you change from it? Because if you've got a reason for doing it that way, why would you then abandon that way of doing it? That shows gross incompetence from the FIA. What's the consequence for that? Who chose to do it that way? Why did you choose to do it that way? It seems a little bit of a setup, doesn't it? Seems a bit like it's all done for the drama and the cameras, doesn't it? Safety car and lapping procedure. So let's see what they say about the safety car and lapping procedure. Number 30. The safety car and lapping procedure was a central topic of discussion during the detailed analysis and clarification exercise, stemming from the misunderstanding regarding the application of this procedure at the 2021 Abu Dhabi Grand Prix pursuant to Articles 48.12 and 48.13 of the F1 sporting regulations. Yes, there's a misunderstanding here. Now, you see, it wasn't misunderstood for each of the previous 198 Grand Prix. With Abu Dhabi being the 199th Grand Prix contested under those regulations, where they reintroduced the unlapping procedure at the beginning of the 2012 season. There had been no misunderstandings in those 10 full seasons. But now there's a misunderstanding, and this is central to the topic of discussion in the clarification exercise, apparently. Number 31. It was apparent from the analysis that there could be different interpretations of Article 48.12. Who had proposed different interpretations of 48.12 prior to Abu Dhabi 2021? Because surely, if somebody identified a problem, I've read through the regulations, everybody, and there appears to be some ambiguity. Can we clarify this? What does this actually mean? Because you could interpret it this way, and if you did interpret it that way, this is what it could result in. And clearly that's not what we're seeking to achieve. So can we just have some clarification on that? That's how you would deal with something that seemed a bit ambiguous in regulations. You have a responsibility as a competitor within that team to ensure that not only you, that everybody else competing has it clear what is actually taking place. What do? They say it's apparent from analysis that there could be different interpretations. No, because if the proposed interpretation, when you follow that through and interpret it in that manner, and it produces an invalid outcome, i.e. it doesn't achieve the valid restart condition, then that interpretation is invalid. So therefore, there cannot be different interpretations. If you attempt to present a different interpretation, you are wrong. So it's not a different interpretation, it's a wrong suggestion. Simple, that, isn't it? Or Article 48.13, but this is a child writing this, isn't it? And that is likely to contribute to some of the confusion. And again, we like the idea of pretending that everybody is all confused. Nobody really knows what they're doing. It's all up for debate. Nobody really knows. So this is the world governing body of a sport, and they're presenting that everybody's actually confused by the regulations that are there for the conduct of their sport. How come, if you ask the regulators of any sport, are they confused about some of the regulations in their sport? You're the regulators. You set the rules and parameters for your sport, and there's reasons for that. Are you confused about them? No. No, we are the people who make those. We are the people that impose those. We can give you full reasoning for those. But the FIA, they present that there's mass confusion over them. Nobody understands them. Nobody knows. All lies. Contributed some confusion surrounding the safety car and lapping procedure. It was therefore considered that these provisions on the F1 sporting regulations would benefit from clarification. What needed clarifying? All the teams know what the crack is. All the teams that, they might have entered the sport after 2012, so may not have been competing for as long as this, but they've all been competing in the sport under various guises. The team might have changed names, but a lot of the personnel will remain the same. But even that's irrespective. When you engage in a sport, you familiarise yourself with the rules and the regulations and the purpose of those rules and regulations. And in addition to that, you see how these things work. You see what the protocol is and what it actually achieves. That gives you the understanding of what is actually going on. So what you'd see in every single one of these situations is once the track is declared safe, race control give the order to the lapped cars that you're now going to be released, and the safety car remains on the track for at least one further lap to give those released cars the opportunity of making it around the track and linking back up with the back of that safety car snake, creating the correct race order with all those cars nose to tail with all the previously built up advantages wiped out between all competitors. That is what it is there to achieve. All of those teams know that. Every single one of those teams know that. And any suggestion, anybody trying to claim that, oh, I didn't really understand that that's what it was there for. Really, these are supposed to be the brains of the world. These are supposed to be the world's best engineers, the world's best strategists, and yet they're incapable of understanding what's really going on there. They're all confused by the situation. Isn't it strange what little you have to do just to confuse an engineer? Really, these have all got engineering degrees, and you've confused them with an unlapping regulation, have you? Unbelievable. These are the guys that are planning out their strategies for their drivers based on, the deteriorating tyre wear, lower fuel loads, making calculations based on lap time is changing, working out strategies, working out what's going to give them benefit, at what point in time they're pitting. They can do all these calculations, but they can't understand what's going on when the safety car stays on track for another lap when those lapped cars are released. We're just giving them the one lap to get out of the way now. Oh, why is the race controller giving them 2 laps to get out of the way on this particular race? We can't work it out. It's all confusing, isn't it? It's all confusing. And this is what the FIA project to the world. Absolutely ridiculous. But it would benefit from clarification. You see, who would benefit from clarification is the world, because the world's been lied to. The world's been lied to by the contracted broadcasters to hype it up for the kiddies. Oh, safety car. What's going to happen now? Nobody knows, is what they tell the world. But the teams actually know. It's their job to know. It is highly important for the decision making that they need to make for the competitive of their car. And there's a lot of money involved in where their car finishes in races. Oh, it's what the sponsors sponsor cars for points finishes, for good publicity based on success. Yeah, it's their job to get it right and to know and to understand. It's their job. But they don't know. They don't know this bit. They're confused by that bit. And by being confused, that can result in them getting it really so badly wrong in races, can't it? Oh, you don't see them getting it so badly wrong, do you? Oh, what does that show? That means that they know what's going on. So, 32. It was also considered that the decisions regarding the safety car at the end of the 2021 Abu Dhabi Grand Prix likely took into account previous discussions, including at meetings of the F1 SAC, the F1 Commission, and F1 team managers, that made clear the F1 team's preference to end races under green flag racing conditions rather than behind a safety car when safe to do so. I'm not suggesting that these conversations don't take place. Of course they take place. Why do they take place? So what they do, the teams get together with the marketing. The F1 Commission is about growing the sport and the appeal of Formula One. That's what F1's about. F1 is owned by Liberty Media. They bought it because they want to make money out of it. They make money out of it because they increase the appeal of the product, attracting more fans. So they have meetings to work out how they are going to do that. That's the way businesses work. This is our strategic planning meeting. What ways can we increase the appeal of our product so that we can become more successful and turn over more profit? That is what they do. So part of those discussions would be, races which end under a safety car are a bit of an anticlimax, aren't they? People go away from that event feeling a little bit meh. So it would be better for us as a sport if that wasn't the case, wouldn't it? Yes, we all agree with that, because ideally we want the grandstand finish. That gets everybody excited. That means they're really eager for the next one, for the excitement of the next one. Yes, it's like an addiction. It's like a drug, isn't it? But it's like, it just puts a dampener on it when it's just a safety car finish. So ideally, we don't want a safety car finish. Okay, that's a discussion that they would have had. But that doesn't mean that you can freestyle the rules to manufacture that. The rules and regulations are there for a purpose. They are there for safety and they are there for sporting fairness. And you have to, if you have to intervene on the grounds of safety, that impacts sporting fairness, and you have to ensure sporting fairness then is restored to all prior to any resumption to any racing. So you cannot cut short the regulations just to manufacture that excitement, because then you depart from authentic sport, which is what you did. So that is not an excuse, and they do not explain that properly, do they? Do they explain it at all? We'll find out. The F1 drivers' consultation confirmed that finishing a race under green flag racing conditions remains desirable. Yes, it can be a desire, but that safety should always come first. If for safety reasons it is not possible to withdraw the safety car, the F1 teams confirmed that they'd accept it, would they? It's not about what you accept. We're the governing body. This is what happens. This is how this sport is carried out. This is why it's carried out this way. It's not about you begrudgingly accepting it. This is what it is. If you don't accept it, sling your fucking hook. You ain't competing. Because there are rules and regulations, and they are there for a purpose. The teams would accept finishing under safety car conditions. And you think that Massey's decision was influenced by that? Why have you not got the clarity of thought to say, well, it's not allowed to be influenced by that? This is all about rules, regulations, purpose of those rules, regulations. I can't resume racing until I've reset sporting fairness to all competitors. That's not possible. It's a safety car finish. Doesn't matter what you want. Doesn't matter about exciting the kiddies. It doesn't matter about the World Championship being set up to be settled on the last lap of the last Grand Prix of the season. You couldn't make it up, did you? Didn't you? Yeah, you did. But it didn't work because the car caught fire and that fucked it, and then you had to break the rules to make it happen. Oh, and then we had to make this report that's a fraudulent report that doesn't tell the truth, does it? Instead, just diverts and gaslights. 33. The process of identifying the lapped cars used to be a manual process. It may well have been used to. It wasn't in 2019, 2020, and 2021 because we've got tracker view, we've got data view that's available on an F1 TV in each of those seasons. And you're telling me that only F1 TV had tracker view and data view then, not race control. Race control wouldn't have had the computer screens with the data on it saying Lando Norris +1 lap. No, they wouldn't have had that. They wouldn't have had tracker view identifying the locations of the cars around that circuit that would aid them in their decision making and aid them in their safety, in dealing with the safety incidents. Oh, they wouldn't utilise that technology, would they? Of course not. That was available. Definitely 2019, definitely 2020, definitely 2021, and being used in those seasons. But now you're telling us in this report that the process of identifying the lap cars used to be a manual process. That might be a true statement, but when is used to? What, back in 2004, we used to do this manually, but then we had an automated system from there onwards. For 2022, season, a software has been developed that will automate the communication of the list of cars that must unlap themselves. Okay, and that might be true as well. It might be true that the drivers didn't get an automatic notification of when they should unlap themselves, and that was the manual identification. So, but how difficult is that? You've got to carry out the unlapping procedure. Yeah, okay. Who are the lapped cars? Well, it says here, because I can identify it two ways. I can look out the window and look at the cars on the track, and I can see there's Lewis Hamilton, and the car behind him is Lando Norris. And I know that Lando Norris is not second in that race. So Lando's been lapped, and any car below Lando in that race order has therefore been lapped. So Lando and all the other 7 cars behind him get released. That's one way. The other way is looking at data view and going, oh, this says here 7th place Norris +1 lap, and every car below him says +1 lap as well. So each of those cars in that list, they need to be given the instruction to unlap. They know they've been lapped. They know they've been lapped. They know that they've had the blue flags and Hamilton has passed them. They know that Max Verstappen has passed some of them, the 5 in between Hamilton, and they clearly still know they're behind Hamilton, don't they? You tell them, now's your time to go. All you've given us with 33 is that at some point in time it used to be a manual process. You didn't tell us at what point in time. And then you said for 2022, a new software has been developed which will automate the communication. Okay, how does that make it any better? You're telling me it's a hard task for a human to say to them cars, okay, you cars in this list here, which is on that screen, you're now going to unlap. Oh, that's so difficult for a man to accomplish. So difficult. I mean, men these days have got they're just so thick as fuck. They've not got even the basic ability to do that. Sorry, my voice is struggling at the moment, but we'll carry on. 34. In a recent e-vote, ooh, was it for driver of the day or overtake of the week? Fuck me. The WMSC has confirmed a rule change that clarifies that in case of unlapping, all cars rather than any cars have to unlap. See, that's all bullshit. In a recent e-vote, the WMSC has confirmed a rule change that clarifies that in case of unlapping, all cars rather than any... there's a qualifying criteria, and if you didn't meet that qualifying criteria, you don't get the chance to unlap. Hence, all might be inappropriate. It's only any that meet the qualifying criteria. Further investigation into the F1 timing system shall clarify whether a virtual unlapping procedure could bring advantages and simplification. Bullshit. What came of that? What did they decide? Did they decide that virtual unlapping was viable? Oh, they decided it wasn't, didn't they? Why is that? Oh, because what it means is if rather than send them off around the track to catch the back of the pack to unlap themselves, all you do is move them out to one side and let the pack through and then let them slot in behind. And so effectively, they've then got the correct race order now, but they've done one lap less. But you virtually said, no, we'll just assume, we'll imagine virtually that we'll pretend we're all on the same lap. No, you're not. Because those cars now, their tyres have done one lap less than the cars that they now didn't do the virtual unlapping, and their fuel load hasn't covered that additional lap that the car in front of them has. So you've got extra fuel in there, which could mean extra weight, but it could also give you the extra fuel to be able to push harder, meaning you've not got to lift and coast. You know, these Formula One teams that don't put enough fuel in their cars to complete a race distance, so they tell us. So what we have to do, we have to freewheel in a Grand Prix to not burn the fuel so we don't run out of fuel. Crazy shit. So virtual unlapping doesn't work, does it? Doesn't work. Right. Yeah, just knock it out of gear when you're going downhill, lads. Right, and just freewheel down the hill. That's fine because we haven't got enough fuel to make it to the end of the race. That's all right. 35. The results of the 2021 Abu Dhabi Grand Prix. Or have they got stop-start technology on them for fuel saving these days? Every time they pull up at the lights, the engine will cut out. Don't worry about that either. The results of the 2021 Abu Dhabi Grand Prix and the FIA Formula One World Championship are valid because they say they're valid. I set the rules. I tell you how I want it to be, and I'm saying it's valid. That there is called tyranny, right? That is somebody in control of a situation. And despite there being rules, that despite them being parameters as to how something must play out, and despite it being clearly acknowledged that you've got it wrong, that's affected the outcome, that person is just, no, I don't care, that's how it is. Well, that's called tyranny, that's called dictatorship, that's called wrong. Okay, that is the FIA. Because it's clearly invalid, it clearly changed the outcome of the events. There's clear wrongdoing, there's clear breaches, this is just a cover-up. And yet they want to tell you all, no, that's final and there's nothing that anybody can do. Well, there is something that people can do, and that is holding to account for their fraud, because this is a fraud, this is a cover-up. They fraudulently contrived an ending to a sporting event, which is sport fixing, which is sport manipulation, which is fraud, and therefore the criminals are accountable to criminal law, and that is fraud. So there is something you can do. Because otherwise they want to project the notion of, no, it's our thing, and you are not entitled to come to us to challenge us about our thing. No, but your thing is still bound by law, and law dictates how everything in this world is supposed to operate. You have to, in order to trade as a business, then you have to abide by certain laws. Okay, that can be if you are selling a product, you have got to sell your product in accordance with certain rules, regulations, and laws. They are selling a product. They are selling a sport. They have not carried it out as a sport, hence that falls under mis-selling of that product. People have purchased the right to view that sport. Then if you've purchased the right to view that sport, then, and you've done so with a credit card, then you have the ability to go back. You've purchased something that falls under the Consumer Credit Act, and it's not fit for purpose because it's not a sport that you purchased. It's a contrived event, therefore ceasing to be a sport. And therefore you can get in touch with your credit provider, your credit card company, and have a valid claim against Formula One. There's one for you. But well, this is just the way it is. This is the way the law works, everybody. You can do your research on that. But they want to project that they're untouchable. We are the mafia. These are the rules. Nobody can hold us to account because there are rules and there's nothing you can do. And that's their attitude. But no, there's greater rules. Just like when FIFA, the world governing body for football, was raided by the FBI for fraud. Yeah, they can't just say, no, we're in charge of football. It's football. Nobody can hold us to account for anything that goes on in football. No, you can get arrested and people can go to prison. And if you've actually manipulated sporting events, then the outcomes of those sporting events can then therefore be retrospectively rectified or nullified. That can happen, and it will. So, the World Championship results are valid, final, and cannot now be changed according to themselves. Okay? In accordance with the rules, Mercedes made a protest to the stewards after the race seeking to change the race classification. The stewards corruptly, they missed that word out, dismissed the protest, and Mercedes had the opportunity to appeal that decision. Corruptly didn't, because they didn't want to harm the value of the show and their value of their own interests. That is a fraud. That is in breach of a requirement, their responsibility to who they're selling the product to. Filthy bastards. The stewards dismissed the protest, and Mercedes had the opportunity to appeal that decision to the FIA International Court of Appeal, but did not do so. What deals were done? There are no other available mechanisms in the rules for amending the race classification. What are your available mechanisms in your international sporting code surrounding fraud? Oh, yeah, that's different, isn't it? Go and have a look at them, FIA, because that's what you're going to be held to account for. Your fraud, which you are not the judge and jury for. You're not your own judge and jury when you've defrauded the world. The world will be the judge and jury of you and hold you to account for your fraud, demonstrate exactly what you did, and you will be held accountable, you will be held liable, and that result will change. You filthy bastards. So, number 4. FIA race management team structure. Number 36. The support available to the race management team was identified as a key issue by participants in the analysis in the context of ensuring that the race director is able to perform his/her role to the best of his/her ability. You've got 10 people in FIA race control sitting at 2 banks of screens. How many more do you need? Why are you projecting that, oh, it's just one man with so much to do sitting in a hut on his own? That's not how it is. Why are you projecting constantly the difficulty in performing the task? Didn't seem to have any difficulty in getting the safety car procedure right in the 3 seasons he was race director, did he? He did have difficulty in being coerced by Red Bull at the previous race at the Saudi Arabian Grand Prix. Did have difficulty with that. And also, we got the narrative during 2021 that it's Michael Masi that determines the penalties, and not the stewards. Not the stewards, no, because you see, it's the stewards who deal with the infringements. And a lot of the media was presenting, oh, it's Michael Masi that decides who gets the penalties. No, Masi doesn't decide. He can refer them to the stewards for the stewards to apply a penalty, but Masi doesn't decide. That's not what the race director does. The race director does not impose the penalties. If he identifies an infringement that the stewards maybe not have identified for themselves, he'll refer that infringement to the stewards for them to consider whether or not to apply a penalty. But again, the narrative given to us is, oh, what's the race director going to do here? Pin it all on Massey. Season narrative. Then you can pin it on him at the end. So, number 37. Responsibility for supporting the race management team lies primarily with the FIA single-seater department. When consulted in relation to the support that they provide, department staff reported that the team were positive and worked. Yes, we're all good. Yes, we're a great team working together, say them. Of course they are. They want to keep their jobs, don't they? They noted the demanding nature of the race director. Yes, he's got it tough, particularly in the light of the race director's multiple roles and responsibilities. They also identified the need for additional support and resources in order to improve the functioning of the departments and thereby provide better support to race management team. You think if you've got people doing a job, they're not constantly identifying where that they can improve and where they can invest in equipment, technology, or additional personnel to ensure that they are able to carry out the role to the optimum way possible. Because that's what any job should consist of. You do a job, you identify the issues in doing that job, and you produce solutions as to overcome whatever issues there are, so that you become efficient, you become really good at what you do. Okay, overcoming any of the barriers that you've encountered. Do you not think that that's a continual process? Do you think it required this report after Abu Dhabi to work out that this is what race control should do as the FIA? Do you not think that they've done that continually throughout time, throughout the history of time of their existence? Do you not think that they've attended motor racing events to oversee and be in control of and gone, oh, okay, this is what happened at this race. Maybe we could do this better next time so that that problem doesn't happen again. Oh, we've now encountered this problem at this race. How are we going to make sure that, that doesn't occur again? What are we going to do about it? Do you not think that that's the process? Oh, it's only this report that's been able to identify that. Oh, kids, what a great report this is. 38. Additionally, the staff identified the need to improve communications between the FIA office in Geneva and track staff, because Geneva is going to make all the difference, isn't it? And between the F1 sport and F1 technical departments. So they're not identifying the need for F1 TV, the people that have all of the cameras at each of these circuits, to make sure that the race control has got full view of everything that they need to see to be able to better manage the race. They've not identified that, so that's clearly not a problem. So they can clearly see what's going on, and they can clearly see the state of the clear-up operation, so they can clearly therefore have all the information that's required for them to make the valid decisions relative to what needs to take place. They didn't identify that, did they? Because it wasn't a problem. They also noted the complexity of the F1. Oh, it's complex. No, it's not. No, it's not. They've identified the complexity of the regulations, in particular the technical regulations. You're in charge of race control. You know how the car is designed and what the rules and regulations to be the size of certain aspects of the car. It's nothing to do with you. That's irrelevant. You've got your team of scrutineers, that's their job. They're the one that have got their measuring instruments to check the compliance of each of them cars. That's nothing to do with race control, is it? Technical regs are nothing to do with race control. That's all about scrutineering. And the technical directives that supplement them, that's still scrutineering. That's not race control. And the F1 financial regulations, that's for the accountants. That's not race control, is it? So why are we bringing it up in this report? Gaslighting it. Oh, it's so difficult because of the technical regs and the financial regs. Doesn't interfere with your job. Why are you pretending that makes your job any more difficult? Doesn't. and the reduction of the duration of consultancy agreements from 3 years to 1 year. Oh, it takes you 3 years to consult on something. I've got an idea. How about we do this? Right, let's take 3 years to decide, everybody. Bit slow, aren't they? Why is it going to take you 3 years to decide? Because surely, if somebody comes up with an idea, should have the intelligent enough people to work through all the different scenarios and see if there's any problems with that. And then you might say, okay, we can't identify any problems to see why that would be a problem. How about we try it? We give it a trial period, okay? And we'll see if in practice it works, it's workable, and if there's any failings that it throws up. No, we'll just sit and have a chat for 3 years. Yes. Often resulting in higher staff turnover and so reduced familiarity with the rules. Oh, we've got some new staff and they don't know the rules. That's the problem, isn't it? Yeah, that's recruiting people that aren't competent, and then it's putting people on front line that don't know what they're doing. Oh, that's a problem, isn't it? Who's dealing with that? Is that a problem of Abu Dhabi 2021? No, it's not, is it? Why are you putting it in the Abu Dhabi 2021 report? Ridiculous. Gaslighting. That's what it is. It's absolute filthy gaslighting. The recommendations, 39. Recommendations are set out below to address the findings and conclusions in this report. These recommendations have been presented by the FIA President to both the F1 Commission and the WMSC, the World Motorsport Council. So they've been presented to Liberty Media. What do you think, Liberty Media? And what do you think, World Motorsport Council? Oh, yes. And were publicly announced in a statement of the FIA President, this is Ben Sulayem, on the 17th of February 2022. So recommendation 1, to assist the race director in the decision-making process, a virtual race control room should be created, like the video assistant referee in football. It will be positioned in one of the FIA offices as a backup outside the circuit. In real-time connection with FIA F1 race director, it will help apply the sporting regulations using the most modern technological tools. Gaslighting. You see, you've already got 10 people in FIA race control. How many do you need? If you've already got 10 people in an office overseeing the application of all the regulations and the safe running of that event, you think you need a separate office as well? No. VAR in football, video assistance to make refereeing decisions. So, they don't have that in Formula One. They never have. Okay, you see, when an incident is reported to the stewards, like back in the 1980s, if the stewards had to make a decision over whether an infringement has occurred, whether a driver had committed an infringement, what the stewards would have to do, they'd have to rewind the tape, okay, and have a look at it again, okay, and look at what happened and determine which driver was at fault for what took place. So they use the assistance of video evidence to determine their decision. It's never existed in Formula One, but now we're going to introduce like VAR in football, video assistance to make the refereeing decisions. Gaslighting. What a great recommendation that is. Hi now, everybody. I think we should use the use of video technology to assist. Because you've always had that. You've always had that, at least since the 80s and probably before. But now you're proposing that that's a new thing. The ability to rewind and replay and use video footage to help you in understanding what's going on and how that then impacts your decision making. Like the video evidence of the live video feed of what was taking place at turn 14 of the Latifi recovery operation. Recommendation 2. Direct radio communications during the race, currently broadcast live by all TVs, should be removed in order to protect the race director from any pressure and allow him to to take decisions peacefully. So is the pressure coming from the fact that the conversation is being broadcast, or is the pressure coming from the people that are speaking to him? Oh, yeah, I'm talking now, and it's going to be broadcast, and I feel under so much pressure. Well, if you can't cope with your voice being heard by other people, you're not fit for doing the role of being somebody who oversees a global sporting event. So if you haven't got the personal attributes required, then you shouldn't be selected to do the job. So it is, yes, we make allowances in certain jobs. We make amendments to the job, but there's some jobs in this world where no, you've just got to pick the right candidate that's got the right attributes, because they do exist. So, direct radio communications during the race currently broadcast by all live TV should be removed. So what does that do? That conceals these communications from the public. But you're dressing that up as being that causes a problem with race control. No, it causes a problem with people understanding that the race is being controlled, and you don't want them to realise that. Recommendation 3. According to at the end of that one, according to a well-defined and non-intrusive process. Again, the words they use. Recommendation 3. Unlapping procedures behind safety cars should be reassessed by the F1 Sporting Advisory Committee and presented to the next F1 Commission prior to the start of the season. So this is their report into Abu Dhabi saying that we need to assess the unlapping procedure. We've assessed it. Every unlapping procedure that you've seen since, has that been different to every unlapping procedure that you saw from the beginning of 2012 up until Abu Dhabi, and then every unlapping procedure you've seen since? What is the one anomaly? Oh, that would be Abu Dhabi. So was there anything wrong with it before Abu Dhabi? No. Was there anything wrong with it after Abu Dhabi? No. But what was wrong with it? Oh, it's because they were talking to him. They were talking to him. He was under pressure. Right. Recommendation 4. A new race management team has been put in place starting in Barcelona for the test sessions. Niels Wittich, former DTM race director, and Eduardo Freitas, former WC race director, will act alternatively as race director, assisted by Herbie Blash, former right-hand man of Charlie Whiting, as permanent senior advisor. Oh, so you didn't have senior advisors that had been working in their role in race control for many, many years. You see, we can go back through the video footage and we can see the times when they've showed us Charlie Whiting in race control and identify the FIA personnel in the room at the time. And then we can see that those same personnel, some of them carry through to when Michael Massey is in race control. You think there's experienced personnel in F1 race control, don't you? That have been doing it for years and know what they're doing. Are they confused about the rules? Are they confused about the unlapping procedure? Was it only Charlie Whiting that knew that what it was for and what it was about? But Michael then clearly knew it because he carried it out during his 3 years as race director, apart from when he didn't, which was Abu Dhabi 2021. Number 40. Many improvements, such as recruitments and the division of the race director's many roles and tasks, have already been made. Furthermore, the role of executive director of the FIA single seat department was created within the FIA in December 2021, which Peter Bayer holds in addition to his role as Secretary General for the sport. Now, Peter Bayer. Which one's Peter Bayer? I did have a tab loaded up for Peter Bayer. Racing Bulls CEO targets the children with radical youth. That's reported by the Financial Times. You can click on that, but you have to subscribe to the Financial Times. I don't know what it says, but the headline is not impressive, is it? That the Red Bull CEO targets children. That's what it means. Let's excite the kiddies. From Peter Bayer. The F1 Executive Director and FIA Secretary General that then got a job with Red Bull. Racing Bull CEO launches defence of FIA President. Yeah, the Red Bull links and their influence on FIA. However, in order to finalise the new structure, a new F1 sporting director will be recruited, process finalised. An additional senior regulatory legal counsel, will be recruited to strengthen the legal support during the F1 competitions, regardless of the time difference, and especially during the weekend and on F1 sporting matters. You see, why do we have to gas everybody about legal counsel? Do you think when we're playing football matches, when the Premier League matches are on, do you think that the Premier League have to provide a lawyer to every match? Is that how it works? There's got to be an FA legal counsel at every match here. Is that what happens at every sport? At Wimbledon, when they're playing tennis, do they have to? Oh, we've got to make sure we've got the Wimbledon lawyer present at every game here. Why would you need that? Number 42. It is suggested that all the recommendations that have not already been implemented are actioned as a matter of priority, so that the benefit of the lessons learned from the detailed analysis and clarification exercise can be maximised for the 2022 season. The WMSC members will be kept regularly informed of the progress made. That's it. So what's the identification of the fact that you've only released 5 of 8 cars, which is illegal? You've then bought the safety car in without it completing the mandatory lap, which until you've released all 8 of the cars, you don't even do that anyway. So that bit's illegal. You've sent off 5 cars, well, you should have sent 8. Once they've crossed the start-finish line onto the lap that they should be completing to try and make it around the track to catch the back of the track, at the back of the pack, they're not racing during that lap. They've got to make their way around the track at an appropriate speed without overtaking. They were actually racing that lap. They were told they were racing that lap. You didn't identify that as being a problem. You began the race on lap 58 illegally, but when the track hadn't been declared safe. That's illegal. You began that race with 3rd place blocked off, disadvantaged from challenging those top 2 positions by having 2 lapped cars left in situ. You haven't identified that, exposed that. You haven't identified that 5th place had a lapped car between it and 4th, disadvantaging 5th from challenging 4th. You haven't identified that 7th place Norris was left 2/3 of a lap behind Gasly at the time that the race resumed. That's not okay. And here's another thing that I've just thought of. Lando Norris, Fernando Alonso, Esteban Ocon, Charles Leclerc and Sebastian Vettel crossed that start-finish line significantly before that final last lap, illegal lap, started. And their report states that the track was only declared safe just as those cars were entering lap 58. Those cars being Hamilton and Verstappen. So those 5 released cars were sent off to race around the track, told that they were racing on a track that wasn't declared safe. That is gross failure. The report says nothing about it. It is a valid appeal. The appeal for the Verstappen overtake was entirely valid. The FIA stewards did not apply a penalty. The appeal regarding the invalid application of the 48.12 regulation was an entirely valid appeal. The entire appeal process was entirely corrupt. You do not invite in Red Bull as a defendant. They're not the defendant. The FIA is the defendant. They are the ones who have been correctly identified as having breached their own regulations. You've got nothing to defend with. It's a fact that you have breached your regulations and now you must do something different. It's not an argument. They made no reference to that properly. They just validated it. They just presented it as being confusing and it being possible to be interpreted that way. They made no reference to what the media was saying during this time to convince the fans of what might have been possible. They didn't reference any of that. They're contracted broadcasters. The company that constructs the footage and the audio that we all see and hear, that were interjecting with the messages when they were no longer valid messages. The message between Red Bull and Race Control that occurred on lap 56, which when you get onto lap 57 becomes irrelevant because we're now on lap 57. Even if you do release the lap cars on this lap, it's a safety car finish. So we don't play it to the world on lap 57 because it's irrelevant now. Safety car finish now. They still played it to the world. No mention of that. Who was part of this investigation, the consultation party? What are you consulting over? What are the abilities of these people? What is their integrity? Oh, they're all experts because they work in the industry, are they? They're clearly not, because they're not identifying everything that I'm telling you now. And there's more. There's clearly more. You go through my videos, you can see what I'm pulling out of this, and there'll be more that I'm missing. It's absolutely ridiculous. Absolutely ridiculous. Anyway, that'll do on this one. I invite your comments to the comment section on this, on the grounds that there will be some really good people that I do value the things that you say in the comment section. There's plenty I don't. We know all them dickheads are, but there's plenty of really quality people that will be able to pick things out that I may have either seen differently or missed. So please contribute in the comment section. Let me know if I'm missing things here, and we'll try and put it all together and absolutely strip this apart like we've stripped everything else apart. Thank you once again for supporting the channel, the cause, and things will be moving and we will be taking further action. The ball is rolling. Okay, we will get our way into the legal proceedings. It will happen. Okay, the ball is rolling. I can't reveal everything yet because they're going to try and stop it, but there's things that we can do. Anyway, thank you all for your time, and well, I'll be along with something else soon. Cheers.